ask you a question? Do you operate at a level where your absolute minimum is most people's gold standard? Most of us have a version of enough that's actually 110% effort. And then we wonder why we're so tired all the time. To change how you work, you have to do more than just change your tasks. You have to change your internal definition of what a successful day actually looks like. Today, we're going to discover why doing less feels like failing and how to finally reset your internal standard of what is enough so you can stop overworking without everything falling apart. In the last video, we started pulling apart something that most of us just assumed was just who we were. The idea that being the reliable one might not just be something we do, but something you've built your whole identity around. And once you see that, you start to understand why it's so hard to change. Because it's not just behavior, it's who you think you have to be. So naturally, the next question becomes,
okay, if I'm not supposed to keep doing everything at this high level, what happens if I do less?
And immediately the voice inside your head goes,
if I do less, something's going to slip. And if something's going to slip, something's going to go wrong. And if something goes wrong, I'm the one that's going to have to deal with it. Oh, we should just skip this whole experiment thing entirely.
Which feels very rational, very responsible, not catastrophizing at all. Because when you've been operating at a high level for a long time, doing less doesn't feel like a neutral shift. It feels like dropping the ball, falling behind, or becoming unreliable. And if your identity has been built on not being that person, of course you're going to resist it. I remember when I first started trying to do less, and I approached it exactly how you expect. I tried to optimize it. I thought I just needed to figure out the most efficient way to reduce things while still maintaining everything. So I reorganized my schedule. I color-coded things. I tried to be more intentional. And on the outside, it looked like I was doing less. But internally, I was still holding myself to the exact same standard. And that's when it clicked. The problem wasn't just how much I was doing, it was the standard I was trying to meet. The invisible line that I kept reaching out for but could never quite get. I had made up in my head that all of this excess work was what it took to be enough, what it took to be accepted. Because for a lot of us, enough isn't actually based in reality. It's based on what we've gotten used to, what we've been praised for, what kept things from falling apart in the past. So enough becomes doing more than what's required, staying ahead of everything, making sure nothing slips, and that becomes your baseline. So of course doing less feels wrong. You're not just changing your workload, you're violating your entire internal standard. If you think about your own life, there's probably a level you operate that feels like, this is just what I do. Even if it's exhausting, even if it's unnecessary, but it still feels like the bare minimum. And if this is the kind of thing you've been trying to figure out, not just what do I do, but why do I operate like this? I go deeper into this in my Substack, High Achiever Off Duty. There you will find more articles, more behind the scenes thinking, and a space where you can actually ask me questions. So if you want more support with this outside of YouTube, you can check that out here in the link down below. This is the next step in the Align framework. G, generate new standards. And this is where things actually start to shift. Because instead of asking, how do I do less? You start asking, what is actually enough? And that's a very different question. Because if you're used to operating at your 100% all the time, your brain is not going to suggest 70%. It's going to suggest 95%, maybe 92% if we're feeling rebellious. So you have to consciously start redefining that line, not based on pressure, not based on fear, but based on what's actually required. So here's a simple way to start working with this. Instead of trying to lower your standards everywhere all at once, just pick one area of your life and make it something that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. That could be a work task or your communication or things you do for other people. It could even be how you manage your time or your energy. And then ask yourself, for this specific thing, what does good enough actually look like? For example, if you picked things you do for other people, good enough might look like helping without taking over, doing your part without managing everyone else, not anticipating every single possible thing in advance, which can feel a little illegal. But here's the important part. When you first answer this question, your version of good enough is probably still too high because it's being filtered through your current standard. So you might have to ask it twice, maybe even 3 times, until it actually starts to feel a little uncomfortable. Not reckless, just less than what you normally do. That's usually where the real shift starts. Now, before your brain jumps in with,
Okay, if I do that, I'm gonna lose my job. People depend on me. I can't just do less.
let's talk about it. Because that fear is real. You've built a reputation on being dependable. People trust you. People rely on you. There is stability in that. So this is not suddenly pulling back in a way that creates chaos. This is about recalibrating, not collapsing. And there's a difference between what is required and what is doing everything plus an extra layer added on top of it. Most of the time, it's not the core responsibilities that are hurting you. It's the overextension. It's the taking on things that aren't actually yours. It's the over-delivering in ways no one asked for. It's the carrying of the mental load for everyone and everything else. So we're not removing the foundation, we're removing the excess. And when you start doing this, you might feel like you're underperforming, even when you're not, even when everything is still working, because your internal gauge is still calibrated to over-functioning. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something different. And different is going to feel uncomfortable for a little while, especially when your system is so used to more effort equals more safety. So I'm curious, where in your life do you feel like your standard might be higher than it actually needs to be? Maybe in work, maybe relationships, maybe in your daily responsibilities. Where are you holding yourself to something that feels like a lot? Drop your response down in the comments down below. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to actually stick with these changes, so you're not constantly snapping back and forth into old patterns. You do not need to do everything at the highest level to have a life that works. And once you start redefining what enough actually is, you can create space for something you probably haven't felt in a while. Relief. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.